Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. I've got something rather exciting for you today. If you have the Aufklarungspanzer Panther, the Tier 7 German light tank, it is not going to live for very long, and the 9.9 patch is going to be replaced by the Spähpanzer SP1C. This lightweight vehicle is a very capable scout with excellent view range for a Tier 7 tank, and it also has something very unique indeed. It has a 3-round 90mm autoloader. That behaves very differently to other Tier 7 light tanks like the T-71, the AMX 1375, or the Walker Bulldog, which all have autoloaders as well. I'm going to quickly run down the stats of this vehicle to let you know everything about it, and follow it up with some Ace Tanker gameplay. And if you have no interest in this vehicle, hang around anyway, and I'll let you know its weaknesses and how to take it out effectively on the battlefield. So the Spähpanzer SP1C is a complete replacement for the Aufklarungspanzer Panther. I don't have one in my garage anymore on the test server. I truly hope that Wargaming do re-implement it into the game, because for me it was still quite a fun tank to play and a fantastic vehicle for ramming in your light tanks. The SP1C will be the new bridge along the German light tank line, going from the VK2801 to the Spähpanzer RU251. The SP1C unfortunately has a lot of very unique modules. The tracks, both of the engines. The radio is actually shared with the Leopard Prototype A, but that might be one that you can skip out as it only increases your radio range by 30 meters. And also, both of its guns are unique to the vehicle, and you will have to go through them if you want to get to the RU251. In total, this is going to cost you about 60 to 65,000 experience if you want to get this vehicle fully unlocked. But at least the stock gun on this tank is not terrible, and you will still be able to do some good work with this gun, but you're pretty much going to be like a medium tank and have none of the advantages of the top two guns. The Spähpanzer SP1C is incredibly light. It weighs less than 10 tons when it's fully equipped. And that means that its top horsepower of 195 allows this thing to shift around the battlefield, more or less at its top speed limit of 58 kilometers an hour, and it has a pretty good track traverse of 44 degrees a second. However, be warned, this tank has pretty much no armor, and everything that meets it will be able to penetrate it with high explosive shells from the front, and even the tracks of this tank give it precious little protection. So if you see one of these little vehicles, shoot high explosive rounds at it, and you're very likely to penetrate, do a higher amount of damage, and also damage some modules inside the vehicle. And that's certainly a gigantic change from the Aufklarungspanzer Panther, which was one of the most heavily armored light tanks in the game. But at least you're going from being as big as this to as small as that, which should hopefully allow you to avoid a lot of shells when you're bombing it around the battlefield. And now on to one of the most exciting aspects of this vehicle, and that is the two 90mm guns that you can choose. You can have a standard 90mm without an autoloader. It has a decent 7.59 rate of fire. This is on par, really, with a Tier 8 medium tank gun, I'd say. As an example, here is the 90mm gun that the Pershing can use, with 180mm of penetration with its armor-piercing rounds, 250 with the heat rounds that it can fire, and 45mm of penetration with its high explosive rounds. The single shotgun has .36 accuracy, which is a little underwhelming, but an okay aim time of 2.2 seconds. One thing that should be mentioned is that the DPM of the 90mm on the Spähpanzer SP1C is simply terrible compared to the old 7.5cm on the Aufklarungspanzer Panther. Here I've got the guns of the Aufklarungspanzer Panther and the SP1C compared. Now the alpha damage of the 90mm is superior to that of the 75mm, but then again the rate of fire more than makes up for this disparity. You fire over 18 rounds a minute in the Aufklarungspanzer Panther, whereas the SP1C barely fires 7.5. And this means that the DPM of the Aufklarungspanzer Panther is nearly 35% higher than the SP1C, and that's massive. And that's not forgetting that the Aufklarungspanzer Panther is also more accurate with a better aim time. But you could argue that the penetration increase of the SP1C will enable you to do this DPM more reliably, and trying to output this amount of rounds into the enemy tank is usually only achievable if you have their side or their rear. And so now let's have a little look at this autoloader. So it's got 3 shells in each magazine, and there's a 3-second delay between firing each one of the shells, which means it's going to take you 6 seconds to be able to put in 720 damage into the enemy tank. Now, when using the autoloader, you lose a bit of accuracy and a bit of aim time as well compared to if you use the single shotgun, and your rate of fire drops from 7.59 to effectively 6.92 rounds a minute. And one thing that's interesting as well is this tank cannot use vertical stabilizers, and so that makes this aim time feel pretty darn awkward on a light tank. And so I don't feel that there's any one right gun to choose here. I guess it depends on your playstyle. However, in this preview, I will be using the autoloader to give you an idea of its capability. As for all intents and purposes, this 90mm is pretty much the same as the majority of 90 and 100mm guns on Tier 8 medium tanks. Now, this vehicle doesn't only depend on speed and its armament, it also gets a whopping 400 meters view range. And so if you combine that with coated optics, you are going to have excellent view range indeed. And just check out how much smaller the Spähpanzer SP1C is than, for example, an M41 Walker Bulldog, or even how much thinner it is than a T71, which should make it a very interesting choice for all of you pure light tank drivers out there. Anyway, that's quite enough theory crafting. Let's get stuck into some gameplay. So here we go, we're playing in the Spähpanzer SP1C, and the matchmaking couldn't be much worse. Well, at least there are 4 artillery on my team and the enemy team. They're all tier 10, so if we can provide some good spotting, they should be able to dish out some damage, at least in theory. Now I'm quite worried about the tier 10 medium tanks on the enemy team, as well as the light tanks and even the Canon and Jagdpanzer on the enemy team. If any of them rush up here, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble, and oh gosh, there they are. I don't want to fire, I don't want to shoot my wall down. That wall is the only thing that's keeping me alive right now, and hopefully the artillery doesn't find me. Fantastic, they don't. So the E50M makes his way up. I should be able to shoot him through this gap. Oh gosh, we only hit the wall down. Don't manage to hit the E50M, probably. Maybe we can put a shot into the side of the STB-1. Yes, we can! But unfortunately, the rate of fire on the gun, with the 3-second delay between the shells, mean that it's very hard to get 2 shots into an enemy tank unless they're stationary. There's a bat chat below me, and he has just gone completely ham, straight through the middle of the map to try and kill the artillery. And I think I am tunnel visioning on this test server, yes. I haven't even realized that there's a bat chat about to raid our artillery. Well, good for you, sir. Completely oblivious to that, I'm focusing on the SDB-1 and the E50M in the center of the map. Now there's a lovely gap through the Abbey here that you can shoot through. I'm trying to find my shots. There he is. One into him. Another one into the E50M. But he manages to angle his armor in time and we don't finish him off. The SDB-1 certainly didn't want to come back, as the autoloader on the SP1C would have taken him out. Now, I finally realize the bat chat is there. I take a quick look at him. Then I see him rushing over. He's just taken out 3 of our tier 10 artillery. Maybe I can finish him off. No, it just skies over the target. The aim time on this tank and the accuracy make it hard to pull off those shots with the lack of the vertical stabilizers. So I come around the corner, the STB-1 is already aiming for me, but we finish him off and we put another one into the E50M. But unfortunately for us, fair enough, a tier 7 light tank just killed a tier 10 medium tank and put another round into the E50M, but we lost all of our health with those 2 shots that we received. You cannot take hits in your tier 7 light tanks, especially from 105mm guns. Now we have the back of the E50M. Our vehicle's managed to reload itself rather quickly, but we can only put 1 into his tank because of the 3-second delay in the autoloader. I don't want him to turn around and get me, so I've got to be very careful here when you're on this low amount of hit points. He gets finished off, and I don't want to go down and fight the mouse. What am I ever going to achieve fighting a mouse? This was a fast and furious game. It's 3.5 minutes long, and it's pretty much already over. The mouse is dead. All there's left on the enemy team is a Jagdpanzer E100 and 2 artillery. But take this moment to check out the mobility of the SP1C. It's not the fastest light tank to accelerate. I think I've seen quite a few medium tanks have this kind of mobility. But the mobility isn't terrible. The track traverse is okay. Everything I aim at just seems to be getting finished off. What do you guys think about the way that this tank looks? I think it looks a little ridiculous, to be honest with you. It's a little bit like a toy tank. It certainly doesn't have an imposing look like the Aufklarungspanzer Panther. So I fire one off early, we miss the target. And unfortunately, that means that I'm unable to kill him because I don't have enough alpha damage in my shots. And I'm not firing them quick enough to either track him or to put out another shot on the target before he manages to make it behind the rock. And that's something that I'm not used to in my light tanks with autoloaders. When you play the Walker Bulldog, when you play the T-71, when you play the 1375, they all have 2 seconds delay between their shots. And they all have higher clip potential than the SP1C. In fact, the Walker Bulldog has over double the clip damage that the SP1C does. But then again, the fact that you do have 240 alpha damage with every single 90mm shell you fire at your target kind of makes up for this slow rate of fire. And there's no doubt the SP1C is better with the autoloader at putting out bursty damage. It's far better than the Aufklarungspanzer Panther ever was, and you're getting it in a much slimmer package. One thing that I should also mention is this tank has a lot of gun depression. It's got 10 degrees of gun depression, both with the autoloader and the single-shot gun, which is very refreshing for a German tank. And with the autoloader, this tank has 4 degrees more gun depression than the AMX 1375 and 2 degrees more gun depression than the M41 Walker Bulldog if it chooses to use the autoloader. And so let's just take a very quick look at the post-game stats to see how the SP1C was able to perform in this battle. So it looks like this tank is being played very badly. 3,404 experience was a mastery badge. We finished on top of this terrible matchmaking, actually finishing 4th on damage and top on experience, 1,135 base. And if you don't fire premium in this vehicle, and it's very easy not to do so thanks to the excellent 180mm of penetration, you can make a tidy profit in the SP1C. And so all in all, I think the SP1C is a rather good tier 7 light tank. I don't think it's going to have as much of an impact as when we saw the M41 Walker Bulldog come out, but it certainly is much more of a consistent playstyle that you're going to have to pick up to be able to play the RU-251 Spähpanzer well. Certainly much more comparable than the Aufklarungspanzer Panther, which really was the odd one out of the bunch. I don't feel like the SP1C is going to be a game-changing vehicle, but if you guys have been avoiding grinding to the RU-251 Spähpanzer because you hate the Aufklarungspanzer Panther, then maybe the SP1C will change your mind. The only thing that I'm slightly disappointed about is that there's no Aufklarungspanzer Panther in the game anymore. I was starting to kinda like the awful Panther, and I really hope that Wargaming's put it back into the game somehow. It feels like such a waste to just take it out. Why not make it like some of the reward tanks, where it's not premium, so it's not unfair, but you can still put your crews from other vehicles in it, and then it doesn't even have to go anywhere in the tech tree. I personally think that would be much more fun, and I feel like the Aufklarungspanzer Panther is, or should I say was, novel enough to justify a slot in my garage. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this preview. If you did, or it was just useful to you, please consider giving this video a like down below. It really helps the channel out. And if you want to see the brand new Tier 8 Premium German Tank Destroyer, the Kanonen Jagdpanzer, then simply click up here and you can go through to some fantastic games in the vehicle, as well as the full rundown of why many of you guys are calling it a Tier 8 E25. And let me know in the comments down below what you think about the SP1C. Are you devastated that the Aufklarungspanzer Panther is no longer going to be in the game? Or can you not wait to get rid of it and you think that the SP1C looks like your kind of tank? And maybe even there are a few of you out there who are no longer going to avoid the grind to the RU-251 Spähpanzer. And if you're watching this video as it's just been released on Thursday, the 9th of July, then why not come in and check out the live stream? It's going to be Kill Phil. The Netherlands versus Norway. It's going to be Filipopoulos versus Ixor. Let's see who's going to come out on top tonight. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.